Hi, welcome to this Bluebeam presentation of Making Digital Scalable, how any organization of any size can drive their digital journey. My name is James Chambers, and I'm the Director of Global Industry Development for the Build and Construct Division of Nemetschek. So what are we going to talk about today? Well, I'm going to start with the digital principles and explain a little bit about what those are. Then we'll talk about finding the right technology or solution for your company. Achieving our ROI. How do we get a return on the investment we make in technology? How do we identify those easy wins and how do we spot them? Now, I mentioned I was part of the Nemetschek group. For those that aren't aware, Nemetschek is a very large global holding company that owns 13 brands, all focused within the AEC market. And as you can see here, they span the entirety of the digital journey and the life cycle of a project. Everything from the planning design stage through to the build and construct side of things, which is where Bluebeam fits, to the owner, operator, managed side of things, and even Maxon within the media and entertainment business. As you can see, Nemetschek Group has been around for over 60 years. As I said, 13 brands, 6.5 million users in over 142 different countries, and some really great statistics there to show how long they've been in business. So, a new context. What do we mean by this? Well, it should come as no surprise that over the last 2 or 3 years, the world has been really turned upside down by this global pandemic. Um, Not more so than the industry we work in, the AEC industry. And in fact, not that there are any silver linings or any benefits to the global pandemic, but there have been some, if you can call them, positive outcomes. One of which has been that the pandemic has truly accelerated the technical adoption and the digital adoption within our sector, the AEC market, a market that has traditionally been considered a bit of a laggard from a technology adoption perspective. In fact, the Center for Economics and Business Research shows that the pandemic has accelerated digital progress and adoption by 3 years. Obviously, with the pandemic, we had to work a little differently. Everybody worked remotely. They worked from home. 60% of the people want the industry to remain that way, to remain flexible with their approach to working. And that will enable them to retain the great employees that they have and attract new ones into this industry. 79% of businesses don't expect the same level of office attendance moving forward. And this has some huge benefits. Removing the simple travel barriers, help promote a healthy work-life balance, really inspire creativity and self-learning. This in of itself is helping to foster, again, that skill shortage and attract new talent into our industry. Over the last couple of years, over 300 construction-related jobs have been advertised as fully remote or home-based roles. Again, this is a new thing for our industry where you were traditionally tethered to a project site or a trailer or an office. So really it's showing that care and well-being of our employees is now at the forefront of consideration, which is fantastic. At the start of the global pandemic, many businesses needed to pivot to remote working, and they rushed out to buy solutions to help keep them in business, to remain online during that time. It's safe to say that now that the dust has settled, businesses can breathe a little bit and assess and evaluate where they currently sit and what's next. We see a lot of companies performing what we'll consider or call post-COVID risk assessments to better understand the positive impacts they've experienced during these times and what's been experienced by the industry. You can get your business on track, and it really doesn't have to involve massive change or huge expense. Oftentimes, this is a misunderstanding. People think you have to invest a huge amount of money into technology and software or hardware to get yourself into the digital journey. You really can start small with easily implementable simple tools, along with internal changes to your culture, which can deliver significant improvements to how you work and the results you experience. Firstly, clients can look at their overall strategy. What are they looking to achieve? How are they looking, or how are they trying to achieve as an organization, and how can technology help that? Really, the best way to do this is to look at this with the end goal in mind. So if you know what you're trying to achieve from the onset, you can best guide that journey to what are the right solutions, what's the right cultural changes, and how do we get to what we need. The other thing to do is how to set, or have you got the right environment for digital transformation? Is the culture correct? Do we need to change the culture? Do you have the skills and processes within the organization that are digitally ready? Being clear about this means that you are more likely to implement the right solution and truly avoid unnecessary cost and project complications. The last point here, I think, is quite big. Agility will be essential. If nothing, the last 2 years have shown us that we are an extremely agile and resilient bunch, and that the AEC industry is actually a lot more agile than we thought it was. So how do we start with here? Well, starting with the digital principles. Organizations must also know how to engage their people and their supply chains to implement new solutions. For instance, it's essential to build your understanding about digital tools and match these with your internal skill sets and your desired outcomes. This can be done in a number of ways. Most commonly, what we've seen are folks that are auditing their existing workflows and processes. They're looking at their existing tech stacks and assessing whether those tools that they have, or these new tools, can make a difference to the way they already work. You'll also need to change some understanding of your own skill sets within the organization. How tech savvy are you and your colleagues? How change averse is the organization? Knowing this up front will play a critical role in how you plan, deliver, roll out, and the adoption process you have within the organization. Ask your supply chain how they've solved these issues for other folks, and how they've used their own software and processes, maybe for their own benefits. Review your project history to get a feel of what good looks like and where the most value gains can be achieved. For example, public sector organizations and large asset owners can use things like procurement and IT to drive behaviors and technology solutions that they want to see. Having a robust communication plan, targeting again both your internal, external, and supply chains, really can ensure that this works successfully and the results are positive adoption rates. This analysis and internal education is so important as it sets the tone and the foundations for bringing new approaches into the organization. Then we get onto the subject of change management. This can be driven from a number of different ways, from gaining popularity from the bottom up, but most typically comes from a top-down strategic goal, and in really ensuring that you're embedding the right culture from the onset. When the teams, or your teams, fully understand the value of going digital, what it means to them and means to the organization, they'll be engaged and you can gain their buy-in. This will help perpetuate wider adoption within the organization. It'll help quicker testing and evaluation, and probably proliferate innovation within the organization. Now, it's all well and good going out and buying software and having a budget to go buy technology, but really you have to invest in the training as well. That's paramount. Carrying out market assessments to see what's available, what type of training you can get. How do your teams want to be trained? Are they hands-on? Are they video driven? Again, finding the right match and closely sort of match that with the strategic needs of your business. always ensuring that the technology choice helps the business achieve your main objectives. So how do you find the right technology for your organization? Well, technology should be viewed for how it can scale and how it can work for the business now and in the future. So finding a technology partner that you can work closely with, that you trust, one who fits your business and can help to tackle the problems in a systematic and logical fashion. This will help with the internal quick wins to gain that buy-in and again to deliver fast ROIs at the early stages. This process should become more advanced and more scalable as your organization grows, including how your digital maturity journey goes. There are some great tips and ways that might be useful for looking at this. A common practice right now and a common phrase we all hear is something like creating a common and an efficient common data environment. Now, the CDE is a phenomenal way of storing information that you can access as a singular source of truth to ensure efficiency. So before you choose your common data environment, get the whole project team involved. They should identify the information requirements and the desired outcomes for the entire project stakeholders. Forcing this from a singular perspective like IT is probably not the best way of what's the best common data environment for you. Getting that buy-in from the whole organization will really gain the best desired outcome. Interoperability. To ensure efficiency of any digital solution that you choose should allow for a degree of interoperability. Regardless of what platform or software is being used, common access to data, to files, to information is critical. And with systems being flexible enough to share that data with anybody who might need it is an absolute must. Simple things like avoid anything proprietary. If it has its own format, if it requires its own software specifically and won't work with any of your other systems, that's not a good thing. Seamless integration. This will considerably reduce any of the barriers you might have to adoption and maintenance. Think of your poor ITS, your infrastructure, and your supporting teams that have to maintain, install these applications. Working with these supporting teams to ensure that whatever solution you come with will work with other business critical solutions you have within the organization. Lastly, using the technology. The technology itself is not the golden unicorn. It's not the silver bullet. How it can be utilized to improve the quality of information or streamline the process and the experience of the people is the most important attribute. Achieving an ROI. So again, we've invested a lot of money. We'd like to get some of that back in value. How do we do that? Well, first of all, you've got to identify what does positive ROI look like for you, for your company, your organization. Aim to set an appropriate ROI both at a project level as well as an organizational level. That way you can have multiple wins. You should set a budget and KPIs, key metrics, to measure the ROI. What are the long-term business needs for the solution you're looking to implement? If you document those, can you regularly assess what's happened? You also want to be able to regularly assess that because you want to see how things have changed. Were your needs and desired outcomes 6 months ago the same as what they are now? Have there been further shifts in the way that business or projects need to be delivered? Again, that agility. How to get the initial buy-in and get things moving? Well, software is perfectly placed to build audit trails, to spot and manage risks, to ensure compliance, and ultimately drive project learnings to make projects more efficient, to really increase the quality of the outcome and the deliverable and achieve better value. So really working with your software provider when you're looking at solutions, also ask them about, well, what could be some relevant KPIs and translate the important workflows into a digital process. This is a must. So again, technology in of itself really will allow you to self-audit how good it is, how well it's working. I'd like to talk now a little bit about a case study. So this company is Hilson Moran. They are a very large global UK-based MEP firm. And I wanted to discuss this because they had a pretty unique situation when they talked about going down a digital journey, about um, going into a more electronic workflow. They really wanted to move from a analog or a paper-based delivery to a digital delivery and put the right measures in place to track how good the software usage was. They actually were put in a bit of a unique situation because they had two projects that were very similar to one another for the exact same client. They had two project teams on this. So this project was done using both a traditional sort of methodology and approach, an analog approach. So the engineers really had their thoughts together. They drew from their existing experiences, they sketched out on their own systems, and then they merged them together. The second of these projects was done using Bluebeam Review's studio collaboration features. And the second project was done completely online within a cloud-based collaborative environment. What we found is if you look at just the production process alone, using Studio was almost 60% more efficient, which was obviously quite a positive outcome and surprise for them. The findings were, again, the digital delivery using Review and Studio yielded 60% increase to production efficiencies in a side-by-side project against an analog or paper-based delivery. Using Review Studio sessions, their real-time collaborative environment, will provide Hilson with a projected 50% reduction in paper costs within a 5-year period. It really helped accelerate cross-office collaboration and was really made possible by using the real-time secure environment and a subscription to Studio Prime, as Hilson was able to coordinate designs, design review, and collaboration across multiple offices within the UK, London, Farnborough, and Manchester, as well as coordinate with their Qatar and Abu Dhabi offices in real time, essentially allowing for a complete cyclical chase the sun workflow. Hilsenbrand's IT department actually used the subscription to Studio Prime to set complete administrative controls and grant or restrict user access to the studio sessions within Review. So IT was brought in and embraced the technology because of the benefits it gave them from an administrative perspective. Within just 18 months, Bluebeam Review has now been deployed as a completely standard project software within the organization. Let's talk about easy wins and how to spot them. So, plan communication internally and externally to bring your folks and people along the journey with you. This is vital. Oftentimes, technology or change is a very dictated thing. If you can make people feel part of that journey, and if you can bring them with you and show them, maybe share case studies and outline the benefits, maybe some milestone achievements, some tangible fiscal or efficiency gains, but do so in a non-technical language. Not everybody within your organization is going to be technically savvy. So speak to them about those things. What is going to make their life different? What's going to make their life better by using technology or by implementing a digital strategy? Openly share and track against the company's goals. Make them available to the whole company so they can be part of this digital progression. I know a lot of firms use intranet sites, internal web pages. Again, having small things like a ticker or a crawl to show a project being delivered quicker, weeks quicker, months quicker, or on budget, or hopefully even under budget. By advertising and promoting these things, you're actually showing how this implementation, how that digital progression is actually working. Within a lot of firms, you have these, they used to call them innovations, think tanks, digital hubs, but you have these tech champions and these digital adopters. Highlight those, embrace them. These are the people that are going to be leading the charge for you. These are the folks that are interested, they're invested in technology, they want to buy in. Well, use those folks. Showcase their successes to encourage other team members and get people on board. This might also help on how encourage those folks that they don't want to be left behind, sort of kick them into place. Also, and lastly, make the adoption process fun. Create internal opportunities for reward or recognition. I never forget the story of a large American GC firm that wanted to embrace digitalization from a collaborative, a design review process. There was something they did every month, which was they bought the entire company pizza. So what they did was they tried to do something a little bit different. And instead of, scanning and faxing over or sending over the flyer of the pizza menu and trying to get everybody's buy-in, they used Bluebeam Review and the Studio collaborative environment. They required everybody to just go and create a login, a username and a password, their email address, and they put the menu as a PDF inside this collaborative environment. What happened was, by the end of the week, hundreds of people had gone in there and circled or highlighted and played around with identifying the type of pizza they wanted. The byproduct of that was they actually showed, by virtue of folks adding images and funny faces and doing other things like making fun of other people, they actually showed that what they did was encourage inter-office and inter-company collaboration that spanned miles. Um, Again, I'll never forget that. I thought it was a tremendously encouraging way. Not only did people get pizza, but they bought into a digital strategy. I'd like to talk about, again, we've mentioned this a couple of times now with the discussion of Studio, but I'd like to talk about the flexibility of cloud-based solutions. And really, to me, this is the key of future-proofing solutions, is really agnostic devices and access to information. So cloud-based technology, so that everybody can see and access the latest information. They can collaborate together, often in real time, and really allow that project to maintain what's critical, which is a single source of truth. How many times have we've probably seen or heard or done it ourselves where there is multiple iterations of the same information on your own laptops, on SharePoint sites, on hard drives, on whatever they might be, project folders. So again, this is where cloud-based solutions can really, really help that. Some of the key drivers and key points here are accessibility, being able to access information anywhere, whether that's mobile, whether that's interoperable or interconnected with other systems. Provides the peace of mind in terms of security, ensuring that the right people can access the right information and the wrong people can't. Typically, they're quite easy to use. Everybody now has an iPad. They have a smartphone. Their ability to connect to things in their personal life digitally shouldn't be any different from how they do it in their professional lives. So really that onboard, it should be quite easy. And lastly, the cloud area really gives you great reporting capabilities. So you can really see who's doing what. You've got your sort of analytical audit trail of what's going on. Last point there again is lower cost of ownership. You can scale your growth and easily manage and maintain with cloud-based solutions. What do we mean by this? Well, instead of having much heavier hardware within your organization behind your own firewalls, you're now using much lighter hardware to access cloud-based processes and systems. So again, that puts less stress and burden on your operational teams, on your infrastructure teams, as everything is now cloud hosted. So some key points here. Ensure standardization across the teams to make projects work easily and quicker. Keep everybody collaborating on the same page. Again, that single source of truth is vital. There are other ways that you could make things easy. Not everybody is a very digitally processed person. Using things like dashboards to make the data and the information a lot more visual. That makes it a lot more easy to understand and a lot more accessible for those that might not be really super technically proficient. And lastly, it's going to help link your teams way more efficiently. So it's crucial as your teams become more and more fragmented, as more people and more people continue to work remotely and work from home, or as you really need to connect the job site to the office or to the client. So who can do this? Well, the easy answer is everybody. But let's break it down into a couple of things here. You, the customer, the client, can absolutely drive this. By setting the standards as the client from the onset, by listing those KPIs and those data requirements, the client can select the technology that is flexible, easily scalable, and fits within the supply chain and the needs of their business. As a client, you can outline the process for collaboration. How are your teams going to speak to each other? How are they going to be connected? And as the client, you can work in the cloud to ensure that everybody can see the latest information, that single source of truth. The other way that we can do this is from an industry perspective. So the AEC industry really can select technology that is flexible and integrates with the entire supply chain. You can create those core standards, whether those are naming conventions, colors, whatever they might be. You can work in the cloud so again, all of those stakeholders maintain that single source of truth. Again, we think of the mandated golden thread here. So the good news here is, again, anybody can do this, everybody can do this. We can drive this from the private sector, from the client side of things. We can drive it from the industry side of things. It's being driven from the public sector, from the government side of things as well. So with that, I'd like to say thank you. I hope this has been of some use, and there maybe highlighted some parts here that the digital journey and the digital adoption doesn't need to be this big, scary, expensive thing. There are some really key and critical ways with starting small and identifying quick wins where you can really help yourself down that digital journey and gain the buy-in from all of your workforce. So again, thank you so much.